time for our mindfulness moment. Can't put it off any longer. It's time to be present. And one of the reasons why we talk about mindfulness every week is why we carved out some time last year, is because of the stress that autism parents go through and because of the stress that individuals who are on the spectrum go through. And we know studies have shown that being mindful at least a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes every day helps to manage stress when something bad. It's kind of like an insurance policy. Everybody thinks, well, when you're upset, how is meditating going to help? It doesn't quite, my understanding is it doesn't quite work that way, but if you take the time in the morning or at night to just center yourself and breathe a little bit, it makes it so that when you're in a stressful situation, you're walking in a better position. So you're less likely to get overstressed in those moments. And I have really seen a difference in myself in the last year as I did some mindfulness training. And I'm trying to spread that to my son and give him the opportunity. And it's funny how we kind of feed off each other, that when one of us sees the other one starting to go a place, we'll talk about, hey, take a breath. Let's realize that nothing bad is happening right now. So often what we're reacting to is something that happened in the past or something that might happen in the future, and that right now there's nothing that's that horrible going on. Because the truth is when something really horrible is going on, we're in action and in survival mode and not having all this angst, right? So there have been a lot of, what we're talking about today specifically is mindfulness in the classroom, because there's a bunch of studies that have just found their way to the world. And NPR has been covering this a lot in the last week, and I thought, hey, this is worth talking about. All you have to do is Google mindfulness in the classroom, and not only will you be treated to a bunch of studies that show that this works for all kiddos in the classroom, but you will also see that there's a bunch of apps, there's a bunch of different websites that have different exercises that teachers can do with kiddos in the classroom. So really want to encourage you. So much of the time, I think it's Teacher Appreciation Week coming up very soon, but you really don't have to wait for that. As a former teacher, I know that teachers love when they get support from parents, and maybe it's a little gift baggie with, some hot cocoa mix in it and a little piece of paper that says, hey, here's a great website with, information about mindfulness in the classroom. The worst thing that can happen is that they toss that out and never go to it. But, good teachers love that kind of stuff. They just do, I can tell you. And part of what they're finding is what we were just talking about a minute ago, that insurance policy, that if we give kiddos a place and a time in which to take a breath, that they can deal with the stress of being in the classroom or being in the hallway or being on, in the gymnasium, and handle it a little better. It's not just our kids who have sensory issues. All of the kids have sensory issues. You go into those big echoey gyms and somebody squeaks their sneakers and the basketballs go around and everybody gets a little edgy, right? I don't know how gym teachers do it, but they do. But having that mindfulness moment has been found to be really effective at managing behavior issues for all of the kids. So I really want to put it out there to the parents and to the teachers who are watching, let's start to motivate more teachers to do this. Maybe, send a little note to your principal and say, hey, take a look at these studies. Maybe it's something we need to look at here. If you're somebody who does something like yoga or something like that, maybe even volunteer and say, hey, can I come in and with one class, can we just try it out here? And maybe it's not your kid's class. Can I tell you that one of the best things I ever did when my son was in elementary school was I volunteered to direct the school play. And it was always done with fourth graders, and my kid was in first grade the first time I did it, and people were like, you're not even directing the play for your kid's class? Well, I knew he was going to be a fourth grader eventually. And what was great, I didn't even realize it at the time, was that because I worked with the kids who were older, as they got older, they stuck up for my kid. They knew who my kid was and they stuck up for him. The first day I took him to junior high, all the kids that were older than him knew who he was and were like, hey, you're here. And it made it a luscious thing. Donate some time and have it be something that you feel good about. So if yoga is something you do, ask them. Maybe you can go in and do a little mindfulness exercise, maybe with your kids' class, maybe with somebody else's. I think you'll find that everyone will be happier and that it will help to reduce your stress as well, because our stress is tied to our kids, right? If they're happy, whoo, we're happy. They're not happy, whoo, we got stress.